How's it going, everybody? My name's Dave Whipple and you're watching Cheap Wheels. Back when I bought my first truck, everything had a belt. The power steering pump had a belt, the water pump had a belt, smog pump had a belt. But in modern vehicles, everything is ran off one belt, Serpentine belt. That one belt runs all the components that 3 or 4 belts used to run back in the 70s and 80s. And if that belt breaks, you're screwed. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna change a Serpentine belt. This is a job that's simple and easy, should only take a few minutes. Stay tuned. Now right here is our friend the Serpentine belt. On this truck, the belt runs underneath this tensioner pulley. It runs over top of the power steering pump pulley. It runs over top of the alternator. It runs over top of the smog pump. It's kind of going backwards up over top of the clutch fan. We have this plastic piece here. This is the fan shroud. It helps direct the flow of air into the engine from the fan. It's going to make our lives a lot easier if we just go right ahead and remove this shroud. Now we can get a much better look at that Serpentine belt, which way it runs, what it's doing. Now this will give you a little bit of an idea what kind of shape this belt is in. It shouldn't be checked and cracked like that, but it's pretty much cracked everywhere. Now on a lot of vehicles there'll be a little picture here or even up underneath the hood that shows how the Serpentine belt routes around all the pulleys. In this truck, it's at the very beginning of the time when they started using Serpentine belts. But this particular truck doesn't have a sticker like that. Now, I'm pretty confident I can take this belt off and just put it back on the way it went. But if you're not really sure, draw yourself a picture. We're gonna draw a circle for the alternator and a circle for the pump. So it pretty much looks like this. There's the harmonic balancer. It goes underneath, goes up around the power steering pulley, underneath the tensioner. So even though that's kind of crude, that's all you really need. It's just a little map like that to show you where it went. Reason is, it's a very real thing to pull that belt off and then stand there and scratch your head going, where exactly was this thing going before I took it off? So here we have ourselves a brand new belt. We're gonna take this belt out of the package. We're gonna hold it up. We're gonna not get any grease on the inside of it. But you don't want to contaminate your belt with any oil. The inside of your car is oily, like a lot of ours are, and you got oil on your hands. Wash your hands before you handle the belt. You get oil on the belt, it's really going to be difficult for that oil to ever get off, and you could develop a squeak. And if you get a belt that squeaks because it's contaminated with oil, it'll drive you mad, and you will probably buy another belt, and nobody wants to do that. All we have to do to change this belt is we need to find the tensioner. All the tensioner is it's a kind of a spring-loaded job. Keeps tension on the belt. Now this one, at the center of it, takes a 5/8 socket. We're going to put a breaker bar on our socket, and then we're just going to use that to lever that tensioner out of the way. As soon as you lever that tensioner, you can release the tension and take that belt right off. Take the belt off the power steering pump, take the belt off the alternator. Down below we take it off that smog pump, go around our fan. Kind of hard to film this, but way down at the bottom we're going to slip it off of our crank pulley down there. Just like that, we've got that old belt pulled right out of there. Very easy. Take a look at the condition of this belt too. It's old, it's dry, it's got a lot of cracks in it. Now the new belt that's going on, it says check at 60,000, change at 90,000. I don't know if that's totally accurate, but it's going to go a lot longer than the old one. Time to check that the two belts are the same length. Yeah, they look about right. First thing we need to do, we need to get this down here to the bottom of the engine so it can go around the crank pulley. We're going to go backwards. We go backwards over the top of our fan pulley. We go around our alternator. And last, we're going to go up and over top of our power steering pump pulley. We're going to run that belt up underneath the tensioner. We're going to slip it off of the alternator pulley here, which is right here. I got a hold of this belt. It's going to go slip up over top of that alternator pulley. I need to slip my breaker bar on that tensioner so I can move that tensioner. And as I move the tensioner, now that I got that tensioner torqued out of the way, slip that over the alternator pulley, and we're good to go. Once you have your belt changed, take a real good look at each one of your pulleys. All those little grooves are lined up in the grooves of the pulleys. You can see on this clutch fan pulley the belt runs over it backwards. But on these other pulleys, there's just so many grooves in the belt and there's so many grooves in the pulley, and they need to line up. Now, if all the grooves in the belt are lined up with the grooves in the pulleys, which they should be, fire up the engine, take a look at it, make sure the belt's running true and everything's good. Put everything back on that you had to take off to get to the Serpentine belt, and you're done. Now, there's no good reason to drive around on an old Serpentine belt. Sooner or later, it is going to break and it is going to leave you stranded, because when a belt like this goes out, the water pump stops working and the alternator stops working, which means your battery goes dead and your engine overheats. There's also no reason to throw it away unless it's broken. We can take this, put it back in the box the brand new one came with, throw it behind the seat of the truck, and if we ever do need a spare, you can always put the old one back on. Just remember, you're going to need some kind of a tool to lock onto that tensioner and torque it to release the tension. Whatever that tool is on your vehicle, make sure that you have that tool with this belt. That way, if you ever do have to switch back to your spare Serpentine belt, you have the tool to do it. And when it comes to changing your Serpentine belt, you have two choices. You could change it on a beautiful day with all the tools you could ever need right in your own yard, or you could do it in the middle of the night on the side of a highway in the rain. Choice is up to you. Either way, it's an easy job and it's a necessary job, and it's a job somebody's going to have to do sooner or later, whether you like it or not. Thank you guys so much for watching Cheap Wheels. My name's Dave Whipple. Keep your junk on the road. See you soon.